Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Capital City Baptist Church. Our reading today is found in the book of James, chapter 1, verses 2 and 3. And it states like this: Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Have you ever had dental work that required more than just a nice routine checkup? For those of you that wore braces like I did back in my early teens, you might remember that before you got that really nice smile with almost perfect straight teeth, you might have gone through the agony of tooth extraction, braces being mounted on your teeth, rubber bands, head and neck gear, and a monthly pulling of the teeth, tightened wires, and the soreness on your gums that made eating anything aside from broth a chore at best, torture at worst. I spent 3 years of my life with very expensive hardware in my mouth that at one point I thought, this is never going to end. And then, just as I was about to start my senior year in high school, the braces came off. Oh, I wasn't off the hook just yet, and mind you, I still had to wear a retainer, something that would help to keep my teeth to going back to the positions they had once occupied in my mouth. But the pain of having to go get a monthly tightening was over. Now it was my duty to keep my teeth from getting cavities and to take care of my smile as best I could. And I would say for the most part I have. I have tried to honor the sacrifice that my parents made so that I could have a nicer smile. One that allowed me to close my lips also and not experience discomfort that I used to have prior to getting the braces. I have continued checkups with my dentist to keep my teeth for as long as I am able to. But let me tell you something. I have not forgotten the awful pain that it took to get me the smile that I possess. It was 3 years that at times seemed interminable. It was 3 years of pain, and I will never forget the horrible, absolutely horrible sensation of having a long needle piercing through parts of my mouth to numb the even more awful pain of teeth extraction. Now, why am I mentioning this experience? Well, I can assure you that it is not to wake up old, repressed memories of pain and suffering, but rather to bring home a point that I think the Lord wants us to understand. He stated in James 1, 2, and 3 that we are to consider it all joy, my brothers and sisters, when you and I encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of our faith produces endurance. You know, I'm like the next guy. I don't like pain. If I can avoid it, I will. I don't like shots of any kind. I don't like it when I'm told this will only hurt a bit. Liar. It hurts a lot. Brothers and sisters, nobody likes pain. Nobody likes suffering. And yet the Lord tells us to consider it all joy. Now, does that not sound contradictory to what naturally comes when one experiences pain and suffering? When was the last time you laughed when you bumped your head, or when you fell and bruised your side or your knee? When you hit the so-called funny bone, did you feel like saying something nice immediately after? But what pain is the Lord referring to here, though? Obviously, it is much deeper and more meaningful than a toothache, or worse still, the awful things that the body sometimes goes through from physical infirmities. Here, James, like the Apostle Paul, was referring to a more meaningful yet still painful experience of championing the gospel of Christ. What things did Paul experience in doing so? Well, he gave us a laundry list. According to 1 Corinthians 11:23 through 28, Paul had been in prison more frequently, been flogged more severely, and been exposed to death again and again. 5 times, he said, he received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times he was beaten with rods, once pelted with stones, 3 times shipwrecked, spent a night and a day in the open sea, constantly on the move, in danger from the rivers, in danger from bandits, in dangers from his fellow Jews, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, in danger from false believers. He labored and he toiled, and he went without sleep often. And he knew hunger and thirst, and often went without food. He was cold and he was naked. And besides everything else, he faced the daily pressures of his concern for all the churches. Pretty long laundry list, isn't it? Like Paul, James also recognized that championing the cause of Christ was not all going to be a bed of roses. There would be hard, difficult, painful times. And yet, despite those trials and temptations, tribulations and persecution, James tells the believer, listen, don't despair. Consider all of that as joy. And you say, and I say, why? Well, although it certainly cannot compare in scope, the suffering I endured for a better and frankly more functional smile was worth the painful 3 years of braces. But I never would have had that smile that I have now, as it is, without the sacrifice of my parents who paid for the treatment and the 3 years that I endured, at times painful, treatment. Brothers and sisters, whenever the situation is not what we hope and the trials come, let us take comfort knowing that there is pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. The Lord has promised us that though we may suffer for the cause of Christ, it is for a little while, compared to the eternal glories that await us. So, like James, who could see what was coming after the pain and suffering, we too, knowing what the Lord has done for us, can say with all certainty, consider it all joy, my brothers and sisters, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance until he comes. God bless you. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you, if the Lord wills, on Sunday. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.